What's good, Sooner Nation? One of the best college football experts just was talking about the Oklahoma Sooners heading into the NFL draft. And one player, of course, came up in conversation and some candid comments were made about this player and his coach that got your boy a little emotional here, right? So we've got to dive into that. We'll talk about here what Bruce Feldman said on The Herd with Colin Cowherd. He kind of broke down in the conversation. They were going through the NFL draft, talking about specific positions of excitement. Wide receiver feels like it's very deep, but offensive line has some really stout players, which led to three players that Bruce Feldman talked about. And one of those was Tyler Guyton of Oklahoma. And I'm going to be honest, Sooner fans, he gave a good amount of perspective of what Bill Bebo is doing here with the Sooners. And so I want to dive into that. But first, let's listen to what Bruce said, word for word, bar for bar, and talk about how his view of what Oklahoma is doing, as well as what the NFL thinks about the Sooners.
There's a couple of, I don't want to say real boom or bust guys, but Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. Bill Bebo is the O-line coach there. He was with Lincoln before. He's an old Leach guy. He has cranked out a lot of star NFL linemen.
Oklahoma's got a lot of linemen.
Guyton might be the most talented guy he's ever worked with, but he's really raw. So you may be getting a couple of years where he's got to work through it. He kind of came to offensive line really late.
So as y'all know, Bruce Feldman just said it. The NFL looks at Oklahoma for players in a lot of ways. I recall recently there was a video over the last couple of years of Andy Reid even talking about, getting players from Oklahoma, and some other coaches and former executives have mentioned how they like how Oklahoma offensive linemen come into the league. They feel like they're ready, especially when you put the combination of Bebo and Schmitty together. Remember, Oklahoma got that 2018 Joe Moore Award because Bebo and Schmitty were together. I sense Oklahoma's going to get another one of those down the line because those two as a combination have built some NFL players. And so Feldman talking about here that he believes that Tyler Guyton was the most talented player to come through Oklahoma that Bebo's ever coached, which is a very wild assessment of a player when you've had guys like Creed Humphreys. You've had even Trent Williams, who wasn't under Bebo, but he was at Oklahoma. Orlando Brown. There's a lot of talented offensive linemen. Lane Johnson have come through Oklahoma. And the fact that Feldman feels like Guyton is the best one, just super raw, is amazing. And I think the best part is when Feldman says that he's considered raw, it makes you think about how Bebo was able to take him from TCU, converted defensive tackle / tight end to move him to right tackle and mold a lot of that rawness and make this dude a first round draft pick. Like, yes, you draft a lot of offensive linemen because of athleticism if you get them at the size that he has and the ability to move like he does. But at the same time, you're still going to need this player to be able to play, right? And then Anton Harrison last year goes in the first round, really shows you what Oklahoma and Bill Bebo's able to do. So I know everybody wants to doubt him on the recruiting trail. We asked the question, how come Bebo can't get 5-star players to sign on the line? And I think there's reasons. There's reasons why. I think the biggest thing is Bebo likes to get guys that can do multiple things. He likes to get players that will move up the stratosphere. It's when you take in the consideration of everything that's talked about around the players that Oklahoma gets. You got to look at the full 360 view of the player. Because yes, 5 stars coming in will be awesome. I mean, Michigan doesn't get a lot of 5-star offensive linemen, but man, they were putting together some Joe Moore Award winning lines. That's something to consider, right? And these 5-star offensive linemen, they're diva-ish nowadays. It's offensive linemen, quarterbacks, and defensive linemen are your 3 players that are really the divas when it comes to NIL era because everybody needs them and wants them. They know they have to have them. So they are the hottest of commodities and they're the hardest players to get. So when you see Bebo go after more raw talent, ones that he feel like he can mold, there is 100% a reason why he's doing that. And so for me, long term for Oklahoma, this is also a great recruiting pitch to point out that NFL teams look at what Bebo's doing to get their offensive linemen for the draft, right? They draft his players. As I mentioned before, Andy Reid talked about it being happy with the guys he got from Oklahoma. And they got a lot of Oklahoma dudes on that line, right? Expect more of that to happen, too, for the Sooners. So I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was a good talking point. Hop in the comments. Let your boy know your thoughts. How y'all feeling about Bebo's ability to get players ready for the draft? I know y'all excited about that because I darn sure am. You made it this far, like the content. Please hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe. Love for y'all to join this family of college football fans talking OU football, college football, and SEC football in general. Had a blast doing it. All right. We talked about earlier this week the recap from the spring game. Feel free to check it out in one of the videos on the screen. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Peace.